Countdown. Hello.
Hello, folks. Hope everybody's doing well out there.
Hey, big news in the Bailey View world. Gordon and I both got inoculated. Yes, 2 days ago.
Woo! Pump
What?
the volume.
Yeah.
Hallelujah.
So we got a few weeks, but we're gonna be out and about, which should scare all of you.
Lisa will be out and about. I'll still be hiding.
That's true. Anyway, so we're coming to you. I know we had talked about some of the things we're going to talk about, and we have a very important show for you coming up that we have not quite yet. We're not quite ready to post it, but we wanted to talk about something that happened this last week in pop culture. I sort of following along our Meghan and Harry conversation a week ago. But it's not about Meghan and Harry, but it might be about thankfully, but it might be about something you think you don't care about either. So I apologize for that, but we're going to explain why we're talking about it.
You know, this interracial, again, using the term race is troubling, but it's the language we use. So this interracial dating, this mixed marriage, the ways we find one another, fall in love, and then you find out, oh, you've got different assumptions, different values, different acceptance of the historical narratives, and then you've got to try to navigate those different understandings if the love is going to make it, right? So I found myself, fortunately, watching a program with Lisa that shed some interesting light. Oh, there was some light on all of these notions of mixed relationships, interracial dating, marriage, etc. So, why don't you give them a little bit more?
A little bit of background. So I don't know. For those of you, I apologize if you watch The Bachelor, because I think it's just a horrendous show. I used to hate watch it years ago when it first came on.
Stop hating. People
No.
watch what they watch.
I know. But I called it hate watching because I really detest the show. And I was really disgusted by one, initially it was a male and there were 20 something women, vying for his attention. It was disgusting. So, and then they had fantasy suites and I think he's having sex with, anyway, it's gross. And he's kissing on everybody. Off topic.
Get to topic.
So it does exist. It still exists. This is almost 20 years later. And it came under fire in the news. Finally, it's never been under fire for sexism, of course, but it finally came under fire for racism. And they've been complaining about this. Because The Bachelor was black, so black man. Matt James was this last season's Bachelor, and the front runner was a white woman. He had a mix of women that he was choosing from. Don't get me started.
It got down to the final two, and it was a black woman and a white woman, and Matt chose
the white woman.
The white woman. That's where his heart was.
That's where his heart was. He fell in love with her throughout this. Well, and so the Bachelor lags. They have about 3 months from the time that they shoot the final episode to the time that it airs, right? So in between that time, you're supposed to be under secrecy. You're clandestinely dating one another, but you're not really supposed to be seen together. I know it's weird. It's weird. But what happened was during that time, these social media posts came out about the white woman that he actually chose. And turns out she had been at an antebellum ball 3 years ago, not like 10 or 15, 3 years ago in college, dressed in her finest Southern wear.
Oh, Miss Charlotte.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that. And then, so she also had liked a picture of friends of hers in front of a Confederate flag.
Supporting essentially hate speech, because I'm sorry for those of you who may be Southerners. To most of us who aren't supporting the Confederacy, it's hate speech. I liken it to
the Nazi symbol.
Yeah.
The Nazi symbol. I mean,
As
that's a
simple as
perfect,
that.
yeah, that's a perfect example because it really is that bad. And so she liked a picture with her friends in front of it. That was not that long ago. And then there was some story that she had been bullying um, white white teenage girls who were dating black teenage boys
Was
in her
that during her
school.
high school
It was
time?
during her high school time.
Okay.
So in high school, she was a bully,
A
but
mean girl.
she was a mean girl, and it wasn't. Who knows who else she was a mean girl to? But it was racist, right? She's a racist, um, and so this whole thing came out. And what I was horrified by is that number one, ABC knew about this before. You know it. I know they knew about it, and if they didn't, they should have. They had a Black Bachelor. So fast forward, the host of the slash Bachelorette, there's a Bachelorette, has had was asked about it and was very dismissive. He was very rude and dismissive to the first Black Bachelorette that was interviewing him. So he was not only dismissive of the racist, postings, but he was also rude to a black female in the middle of this. So just he eventually, I don't know if he begged off or they said, Chris, you got to step down. So he stepped down of hosting this last show. And
Look, at the end of the day, what we have is a continuation of a systemic cancer called racism that's affecting the United States of America, dare I say all of North America, but let's just stay in our country for the time being. These problems shouldn't be happening in 2021, but the reality is we haven't unpacked the national narrative about what it is to be human, who this country was built by and for, who should have access to the good things, the American dream, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. All these things come into play when you have a mixed couple who have very different histories, like Lisa being from Montana and California in the West, me being a New York and a Harlem guy, East Coast guy, lived between DC, went to college in Pennsylvania, Harlem. Very different people coming together.
yeah.
But what got me about this situation was not that ABC may have stumbled or bumbled, or maybe they thought they'd get more ratings when this thing blew up. I don't know. Not that there's been such a horrific lack of diversity, because I use statistics to look at almost everything in life. I don't know why the numbers seem to help me understand things. And given the population of African Americans, Black Americans, Latinos, and I was looking recently, a quarter of Latinos actually identify as Afro Latinos. So there's another piece of that black pie, but I don't know that this television program should have had more of this kind of person. I don't know that there's ever been an Asian bachelor or bachelorette. I don't know any of these things. What I do know is there's a lack of diversity in so many ways, whether it's on the production staff or even on who's doing the vetting. So if everyone doing the vetting is white, do they even look at the racial questions through an anti-racist prism? And
Probably not. And I think that is one of the casting directors, the producers, the executive producers, and the host, right? It just completely had zero, and I called it racial justice quotient, right? Racial justice, emotional IQ, racial justice IQ. Like there's no lens that they're looking at this through. And yes, it is 2021. I think you just said 20. Did you say 2021? 2021.
I hope I said 2021.
Anyway, I don't know. I don't remember.
What year is it really? Okay.
Time, like race, is a construct. We'll get to that later. Anyway, but so one of the things that really was upsetting to me is yes, they should have vetted better. They should not have waited until this moment. And the poor Bachelor, which I can't, I mean, nice guy, I guess. I don't know. I haven't watched it, but his name was Matt James. And they had Emmanuel
H.O.
Acho. Anyway, he does Uncomfortable Conversations with the Black Man. It's a beautiful YouTube. Please watch it if you can. Uncomfortable Conversations with the Black Man.
Nigerian brother.
Nigerian, yeah, and he's also on ESPN a lot, right?
Yes,
He's
former
a
football
former
player, I
football
believe,
player.
yeah.
Yeah. But so he did the interview after Chris Harrison was booted off, and I hope it's permanent boot because he doesn't deserve to be that. I'm not a big cancel culture person, but I really think he was so egregious. I really think that he needs to go off and do his own work. Maybe ABC has an opportunity to come back and do shows on his transformation. And the woman, to be fair, so what happened, so they had Emmanuel Acha doing the fight after the final rose, which is what they do, right? And he interviewed the woman that got her heart broken, the runner up, which is a Black woman. And then he interviewed the white woman who did win. And she was very good, I thought. Now, honestly, her answers were completely appropriate. She apologized. She said, I don't want to become a victim of this. I understand whether I was ignorant or not. My ignorance was racist. So I thought that was,
For me,
that was good.
Lisa's. I love Lisa, and she's coming to the brother's rescue. The brother's a strong man. Any Black man in America has dealt with racism, and whether or not you dealt with racism within your own heart, like the tuggings of your heart, like I tried to date a woman of East Indian ancestry, and her father was telling me about being a Black man, and he was, at that time I was brown skinned. He was much darker than I was, and I was like puzzled, like, who are you calling Black? It was a ridiculous thing, but these notions are all about us. We can't have a conversation about American life without these ideas around race and culture being a player in the dynamics of the communication, because it's always present. So I don't know if the former host needs to be jettisoned for forever. Maybe ABC needs to do a show about how we're bringing all of our staff into an anti-racist programming mindset.
That's a great idea.
Something that they could lead the way with, because they own ESPN, or Disney owns all of them. They're all linked, right? It's this mega corporation. But when do we, as the viewing audience, we as the people who give ourselves to these programs, demand that they do better by all of us? And so Matt deserved better. I think maybe the whole programming, though, is problematic in this modern era. Like, this is
Yes, 100%.
this is troubling. And the thing about Matt's trauma. So as soon as I'm knowing that I'm interested in Lisa beyond just a casual, like, oh yeah, we have fun together, you've got to be able to deep dive into the questions about, well, what is in your past, and did you ever date somebody of another color before? Have you ever had any like hateful thoughts about people? Do you cross the street when you see a group of young brothers with their hoodies on their heads? Do you cross the street because you're in fear? You're clutching your purse? I mean, where are you coming from? And I don't know what Matt said to this young woman. I'm sorry, I don't know her name.
Her name's Rachel. I don't
Rachel,
remember her last
to
name.
be
Her
fair, I
name's
mean,
Rachel.
I don't know what they talked about, and I'm going to make an assumption, which could be erroneous, but that they had some serious conversations about, well, who I've been. Because there's the difference between being a high school age person and doing some ridiculous things. And bullying, unfortunately, is a big part of high school life. So sad. And then, of course, if you go to a mixed high school, and the fact that there are some groups that don't want people to be with different people, right? I went to a high school in New York that had two sides of the building, and one side people exited were from one ethno-cultural group, and then on the other side, that's right, Dominican students exited on 84th Street, and the Black and Puerto Rican population and the few white kids that were in high school with us exited on the 85th Street side of Louis Brandeis High School back in the day, because people have different identities, different values, and different cohort groups. They just want to be with their peeps, particularly when you're young. I don't care if you love being with your peeps. I love my peeps, but I've never once dated someone because they looked a particular way, as in white skin, brown skin, red skin, right? That's not my thing. And I've never fallen in love with the ideal or the ideas that are inherent in a particular class of potential lover, partner, lover. Like people do that, and I get that. I'm not here to like cast aspersions on anybody.
Well, let me interrupt just a little bit. So just a little bit. So yes, I know that we've already had these conversations about when you're going to be serious and you're going to, but this was such a glaring example of that. And more importantly, what I was so horrified by was the fact that ABC allowed this traumatized Black man to go on, and he's under contract. He has to do these interviews. You have to do this interview. So he's under contract, and they're trotting him out after Rachel, lovely. I mean, I actually, honestly, as a white anti-racist, a European American anti-racist, quote white, woman, I was proud that she was saying somebody, obviously she was doing the work she needs to be doing, right? She's at the beginning of her journey, kind of like what Harry sort of decided, oh yeah, wow, he got a wake-up call. She got a wake-up call. But she also showed up on The Bachelor knowing Matt James was The Bachelor. And I wonder how much of that fetishizing of a Black man, oh, he's a beautiful Black man, I'm gonna, like, that was kind of weird. And she did say, well, I loved all of you. I came on The Bachelor because of you. And so there's some vetting that ABC did not do. They did not look to see who was there to fetishize. They also did not see, and then so Matt comes on, and spoiler alert, they're broken up. Okay, they're not still together, but they were together when this whole thing came down, and he showed up with this big bushy beard. That is not the way that he had appeared. No, and the only reason I say that is because to me it was an outward extension of his vulnerability, right? He was trying to like protect himself, and you could see that. And he had this clenched jaw, and he could barely look at her. The host had tried to get them to do one last embrace.
But he did give her a hug when they first came on.
Very cool.
Yeah, but if I've broken up with you, technically I barely want to look at you, because they broke up over something that's hideous. When you find out the person that you purportedly love is actually living with racist ideology and narrative within their personhood, then it's like, well, I don't know you at all, because that's not the woman that I want to be in love with. And I think, I don't know what most white people think about what Black folks think. In fact, I don't really think that most white folks actually think about what Black folks think, or anybody else for that matter, because the whole script of life here has been written by the victor, right? In war, the victor gets to write the history. And so white America, for whatever reason, mostly hasn't been concerned with the mental, physical, emotional health of the non-white peoples. So I don't even know that I can blame this young woman all that much, other than
Not me.
not you.
I know he's pointing at me. It's not me.
But to say that's what's normalized within the United States of America,
It's true.
that this is our world and everything's through the ways we view life.
So I want to say, I know I just made a joke, not me, but that's not really what I meant, because it is me. I am that person, right? As we walk through, and he's absolutely right. White America does not consider what anybody else thinks. They're taught not to. They're taught that, oh, you just have to be, pull yourself up by the bootstraps and blah, blah, blah. I mean, we all know that old adage, which is bullshit, quite frankly. But the truth is, even if somebody asks a white person directly, right? Gordon said, oh, do you have any? Nobody's going to say, I mean, I did. I understood because I had done my own work for 20 years before I met this man, right? For whatever, not quite 20, 17 years before I meet him, I'd already started doing my own. I noticed, why am I crossing the street? I started to dismantle that. I'm still working on it. And I've been doing this for 30 years and I'm still working on it. So people that are just beginning this journey, there is absolutely support and help out there. But you, first of all, you have to understand that you have a problem, right? It's like the 12-step program, came to believe I was powerless over blah, blah, blah. White people have a really hard time acknowledging they're powerless. And it's not about being powerless. It's about being honest and looking at the panoply of examples that we are giving you that are out there that you have to realize are actually, I mean, when you say, I sat and watched as with all of, I'm sure Bachelor Nation, as they call themselves, watched as this young man was painfully trotted out. And I mean, Gordon was like, they can't have that much silence on television because he couldn't speak. There was nothing he knew how to say. He didn't know what to say.
So it's striking to me that while Emmanuel Acho, and I believe that's how you pronounce his name, please forgive me, brother, if we've got it wrong. Like Dr. Jeff Gardere used to be brought on to, I thought it was ABC News in New York, but maybe no. Anyway, so where was ABC bringing some of the best or brightest minds within the psychological world or relationship world to come and support these people in the midst of this? And what I witnessed to was a young woman who seemed very contrite and who I think is still in love with the man. I don't know how you, like, can you turn love on and off? I think they're both still in love with each other, but they're in such a difficult position that they don't even know how to navigate it, because Matt's taken the position, you've got to do something to fix yourself. I'm not sure she fully knows how to go about fixing herself. And I'm not sure he's not in some measure to blame, because as soon as you're a man of color who's going to date a woman or a man from another ethnic, racial group, you've got to do your homework and understand who and what culture this individual is coming from and what might they be bringing into this union of the two of you. You've got to, Black men in particular, like if you're going to cross those boundaries, yo, what's up? Know who you're getting involved with. Southern Belle, oh my God, there were a whole host of questions Matt should have been asking, and so I don't know what goes on in anyone else's mind. I don't want to even try to assume I know, but as for me, when I knew Lisa was from Montana and I knew there weren't very many black folks in Montana, hey, what'd she know about black folks? Then she went to live in San Francisco. Well, San Francisco isn't very black. You got to cross that bay, get into Oakland if you want to get some negritude, some blackness on, because they done chase black folks out of San Francisco by economics. It's no, I don't view San Francisco as a racist city. It's one of the great cities of America, but if you, as a city governance, and wasn't Willie Brown the mayor of San Francisco, if you didn't, if you as a black mayor didn't make sure that the diversity of this great city wouldn't be destroyed as Silicon Valley took over your city and pushed marginal income people out, right? So, doggone it. That's my daddy's saying, doggone it. You've got to do your homework, even where it's a matter of the heart. Who is she? Where is she from? Who is he? Where is he from? What are they bringing to the table?
Right. And that's where I blame The Bachelor. That's where I blame ABC, because every single date they have is scripted. I mean, the cameras are on them, and they should have put in there the host, Chris Harrison, who has I said it before, zero racial justice IQ or racial, nothing. He doesn't understand anything.
Maybe he's just lacking in compassion.
He sometimes has compassion. Whatever. I don't watch it enough to make that judgment, but I will say he doesn't understand. And dare I say, nobody at ABC seemed to understand enough. And I'm gonna amend that. They might have understood, they didn't care. That's where
it might have been about the ratings. Maybe there's more rating power behind this black-white union not making it. And that may be good for the corporate bottom line. Yeah. I don't know. But it didn't look good to me.
But it didn't look good. And it was painful to watch. The one thing I will say about ABC is they brought in Emmanuel Acho. They were able to show it on primetime television. And they said they're going to continue. There's another Black Bachelorette. She was the runner-up, is going to be and they had some announced. Anyway, I barely watch it. So I pay attention because I pay attention to pop culture. And I pay attention to what our young people are watching. And I pay attention so that when things like this come up, we can address it, because it needs to be addressed. And ABC, the cancel culture, it's not the cancel culture like the Republicans are trying to claim we're using cancel culture. I'm talking about it's called restorative transformation, right? Not just restorative justice. There's a restorative justice instead of punitive justice, instead of punitive punishment, right? And then there's restorative transformation. So instead of canceling something, you actually use that as an opportunity to learn. And I think every time we use the Maya Angelou quote, everybody's do the best you can. When you know better, do better. ABC, maybe you'll do better now. Again, I hope this is helpful for you all in learning, sort of taking that filter of yours and watching these things as they happen in sort of the universe, and try and be better and
be the best human being you can be. And where it's affairs of the heart, where it's concerning your children or potential children, where it's the bringing together of families from very different contexts. If the relationship's gonna work, if you're gonna be able to sing that old song, "You and Me Against the World," right? You've got to have a solid foundation based on knowledge and cultural norms and sociological, psychological. I mean, right in the modern world, be prepared.
At the very least, whether your histories match, you have to understand the actual history, right? You have to understand how history actually played itself out.
The present, the American story continues to play itself out, whether it was Meghan thinking that jolly old England was going to accept her and all of her relatives, or whatever it is. Who knows what it is? What I know is it's right now, right? 1619 is now, because from the first 400 400 years, and the story continues.
Yeah.
We haven't
Yeah.
made it to the promised land. And
Far
I like to
from it.
be an optimist and believe we're going to get there because love will prevail if you work for it.
Be kind.
Love deeply. Stay safe.
See you later. Bye. And thanks for tuning in. Subscribe. Thanks. Oh, and the BaileyView at gmail.com if you want to email us. Okay.